Keep an eye out for the golden star during the video. If you spot it, comment the time you saw it, and you'll get a shout out in our next video. Happy hunting! A society where people can swap bodies to experience different lives. In the heart of Neo-Luma, the city never slept. Its streets were a riot of color and light, where holographic advertisements and neon signs competed for attention against the backdrop of towering skyscrapers. The air hummed with the constant buzz of drones and the low murmur of an ever-awake populace. It was a city defined by its embrace of technology, and at the center of this digital utopia was the revolutionary body-swapping device. Alex Rivers stood on the observation deck of his modest apartment, gazing out at the sprawling metropolis below. He admired the cityscape, but his mind was elsewhere, preoccupied with the thrill of his latest assignment. As a freelance journalist, Alex prided himself on exploring the unique perspectives that body swapping allowed. Each swap was a new story, a fresh angle on life in Neo-Luma. Tonight, however, felt different. Alex had planned to swap with a government official to uncover the nuances of their daily life. His editor had suggested it might make for an interesting piece, shedding light on the workings of those in power. Little did Alex know, this particular swap would catapult him into a web of secrets far beyond his imagination. All right, let's see what today has in store, Alex muttered to himself as he activated his body-swapping device. The sleek, handheld gadget beeped in acknowledgement, displaying a menu of available swaps. He scrolled through the list, each profile represented by a holographic image and a brief bio. His finger hovered over the profile of Evelyn Drake, a high-ranking government official known for her strict policies and enigmatic persona. Here goes nothing, he thought, confirming the swap. A rush of vertigo overwhelmed him as his consciousness transferred from his body to Evelyn's. The sensation was both disorienting and exhilarating, like plunging into an icy river and emerging into a new world. When the dizziness subsided, Alex found himself in a luxurious office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Neo-Luma. The room was immaculately decorated, with minimalist furniture and a collection of abstract art adorning the walls. He took a moment to steady himself, feeling the unfamiliar weight of Evelyn's body and the tightness of her professional attire. This is different, he thought, flexing his fingers and adjusting to the new physicality. As he surveyed the office, his eyes were drawn to a sleek, modern desk. Papers and digital devices were meticulously arranged, but it was a small, encrypted terminal that caught his attention. Curiosity piqued, Alex approached the terminal. He knew he was here to observe, to gather insights for his article, but something about the device beckoned him. Let's see what secrets you hold, he mused, tapping into Evelyn's memories for the access codes. To his surprise, the terminal unlocked, revealing a series of classified documents. Alex's eyes widened as he scanned the contents. Plans for surveillance, control mechanisms, and detailed reports on the population's psychological profiles were laid out in stark detail. It was a chilling realization. The government was using body-swapping technology to monitor and manipulate citizens on an unprecedented scale. This can't be real, Alex thought, his heart racing. They're controlling people's lives, their identities. The weight of the discovery pressed down on him, but he couldn't afford to lose focus. He quickly copied the files onto a secure drive, intending to review them later in a safer location. Just as he finished, the door to the office opened. Alex turned to see a tall, stern-looking man enter, his expression one of mild surprise. "Madam Drake, I didn't realize you were still here," the man said, his tone respectful but curious. Thinking fast, Alex adopted Evelyn's authoritative demeanor. "Just wrapping up a few things. What can I do for you?" he replied, hoping his voice carried the right inflection. The man nodded. "Very well, I'll leave you to it. Just a reminder, the council meeting is in an hour." "Of course," Alex said, forcing a smile. "Thank you." As the man exited, Alex exhaled deeply. He needed to stay on guard. Navigating Evelyn's life would be a delicate balance of maintaining her persona while uncovering the truth. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined, and failure was not an option. He glanced once more at the encrypted terminal, now dark and silent. The secrets it held were the key to unveiling the government's sinister plan. Alex knew he had to tread carefully, but his determination was unwavering. "This is bigger than any story I've ever covered," he thought, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. "I need to find out who else is involved and how deep this conspiracy goes." With a final look around Evelyn's office, Alex straightened his posture and prepared to step into her world. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but he was ready. Neo-Luma's bright lights seemed to pulse with a newfound intensity, reflecting the gravity of his mission. The city awaited, and so did the truth. Alex sat at Evelyn's sleek, modern desk, trying to acclimate to the weight of her responsibilities and the gravity of the secrets he had uncovered. The encrypted files on the terminal had given him a glimpse into a sinister world, but the real challenge lay ahead. He had to blend into Evelyn's life seamlessly while piecing together the full scope of the government's manipulative plans. The council meeting was in less than an hour. Alex rummaged through Evelyn's memories, searching for details that would help him navigate this new environment. Okay, let's see who's who, he thought, mentally reviewing the key players in the government. Names, faces, and roles came to mind, a whirlwind of information that he needed to organize quickly. As he prepared, Alex glanced at the mirror on the wall. Evelyn's reflection stared back at him, her sharp features and steely gaze a stark contrast to his own. He practiced her expressions, mimicking the confident, no-nonsense demeanor she was known for. I need to pull this off, he reminded himself. One slip and it's over. The council chamber was an imposing room, filled with high-ranking officials and advisors. The air was thick with tension and the hum of whispered conversations. Alex entered, adopting Evelyn's confident stride. Heads turned, and conversations paused as he took his seat at the head of the table. Madam Drake, a voice called from across the room. Alex looked up to see Councilman Harding, a senior official known for his keen intellect and unwavering loyalty to the regime. His piercing eyes scrutinized Alex with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Councilman Harding, Alex replied, nodding curtly. He hoped the brief interaction would suffice to maintain Evelyn's authoritative presence without inviting further scrutiny. The meeting commenced, and Alex listened intently, trying to absorb as much information as possible. Discussions ranged from economic policies to security measures, each topic revealing more about the inner workings of the government. Alex's mind raced, connecting dots and identifying potential allies and adversaries. A sudden interruption jolted him from his thoughts. Madam Drake, your insights on the new surveillance protocols? Harding's voice cut through the room, directing everyone's attention to Alex. Alex hesitated for a fraction of a second, then responded with the confidence he had practiced. The protocols are essential for maintaining order and ensuring the safety of our citizens, he said, echoing Evelyn's typical rhetoric. We must remain vigilant and adaptable to new threats. Harding seemed satisfied, but Alex could sense the scrutiny from others in the room. He needed to tread carefully, balancing Evelyn's persona with his mission to uncover the truth. As the meeting continued, Alex's thoughts drifted back to the encrypted files. The detailed psychological profiles and control mechanisms were just the tip of the iceberg. He needed more information, and he knew exactly where to start. Evelyn's personal quarters. After the meeting, Alex made his way to Evelyn's penthouse. The security was tight, but Evelyn's credentials granted him seamless access. The penthouse was a study in opulence, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of Neo-Luma. Alex marveled at the luxury, but his focus remained sharp. He explored the penthouse, looking for anything that could shed more light on the conspiracy. A hidden compartment behind a bookshelf caught his attention. Inside, he found a collection of classified documents, personal notes, and a second encrypted terminal. Bingo, he thought, feeling a surge of determination. Alex activated the terminal, entering the access codes he had gleaned from Evelyn's memories. The screen flickered to life, revealing a trove of sensitive information. He skimmed through the documents, uncovering more about the surveillance programs and the psychological manipulation tactics being employed. The scope of the operation was staggering, far beyond what he had initially imagined. This is insane, Alex muttered. They're controlling every aspect of people's lives. This has to stop. As he copied the new files onto his secure drive, Alex heard a soft chime. Evelyn's personal communicator was flashing, indicating an incoming message. He hesitated, then opened the message. It was from a high-level operative, outlining a new phase of the operation set to commence in a few days. This is it, Alex thought. The final piece of the puzzle. I need to stop this before it's too late. The weight of his mission pressed heavily on him, but Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had the evidence, the knowledge, and the drive to expose the truth. Now, he just needed to stay one step ahead of Evelyn and her loyalists. With a final glance around the opulent penthouse, Alex steeled himself for the battles ahead. The journey was fraught with danger, but he was ready to face whatever came his way. Neo-Luma's bright lights flickered outside, a reminder of the vibrant city he was fighting to protect. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. The truth had to be revealed, and Alex would stop at nothing to ensure it was. The next morning, Alex awoke to the unfamiliar luxury of Evelyn's penthouse. Sunlight streamed through the expansive windows, casting a warm glow over the meticulously designed space. Despite the beauty of his surroundings, his mind was already racing, strategizing his next moves. He needed allies, people who could help him navigate this treacherous path and expose the truth. After a quick breakfast, he activated Evelyn's personal communicator and scrolled through her contacts. One name stood out, Dr. Mira Johnson, a renowned scientist and bioethicist who had publicly questioned the ethical implications of body-swapping technology. If anyone could be an ally in this fight, it was her. Alex arranged a meeting with Dr. Johnson under the guise of discussing new regulations. He hoped the pretense would be enough to pique her interest without raising suspicion. He dressed in one of Evelyn's sharp suits, practicing her authoritative demeanor in the mirror once more before heading out. The drive to Dr. Johnson's lab was a short one, but it gave Alex time to plan his approach. As he arrived, the sleek, glass-fronted building loomed before him, a testament to Neo-Luma's commitment to scientific advancement. He stepped out of the car, straightening his posture as he entered the building. "Madam Drake, it's an honor to have you here," Dr. Johnson greeted him in the reception area. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and an air of quiet determination. "The honor is mine, Dr. Johnson," Alex replied, doing his best to channel Evelyn's authoritative yet respectful tone. "I've been following your work with great interest." They walked through the lab, exchanging pleasantries about recent scientific developments. Alex's mind was focused, analyzing every detail of their conversation for an opportunity to reveal his true intentions. Finally, they reached Dr. Johnson's private office, a space filled with books, research papers, and holographic displays. She gestured for Alex to take a seat. "So, what brings you here today, Madam Drake?" Alex took a deep breath, deciding to take a calculated risk. "Dr. Johnson, I believe we share some common concerns about the ethical use of body-swapping technology. I've come across some information that could change everything." Dr. Johnson's expression shifted from polite curiosity to genuine interest. "Go on," she said, leaning forward. "I have reason to believe that the government is using this technology to control and manipulate citizens on a scale we've never imagined," Alex said, choosing his words carefully. "I've uncovered classified documents that detail surveillance programs and psychological manipulation tactics." For a moment, there was silence as Dr. Johnson processed his words. Then, she stood and locked the door to her office, a clear sign that she was taking him seriously. "Show me," she said, her voice low but firm. Alex pulled out the secure drive and connected it to a holographic projector. The air filled with detailed images of the documents he had copied, outlining the extent of the government's control mechanisms. Dr. Johnson studied them intently, her eyes narrowing as she took in the damning evidence. "This is far worse than I thought," she murmured. "We need to act quickly. If this information gets out, it could destabilize the entire city." "Agreed," Alex replied. "But we need to be strategic. Evelyn Drake has many loyalists within the government who will do everything in their power to suppress this information." Dr. Johnson nodded, her mind already working through the logistics. "I have a few trusted colleagues who can help. We'll need to secure more evidence and ensure we have a safe way to disseminate it. This can't be done hastily." As they continued to plan, Alex felt a growing sense of solidarity. For the first time since discovering the conspiracy, he wasn't alone. With Dr. Johnson's expertise and connections, they had a fighting chance to expose the truth. Leaving the lab, Alex felt a surge of hope. The road ahead was still fraught with danger, but he had allies now, people who shared his determination to see justice served. He knew that Evelyn would be watching his every move, but he was prepared for the challenge. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was his resolve. Back in the penthouse, Alex reviewed the latest message from the high-level operative. The new phase of the operation was set to begin in 3 days. Time was running out. He and Dr. Johnson needed to act quickly to gather the remaining evidence and plan their next steps. As he stared out at the city, bathed in the glow of evening lights, Alex's thoughts were a whirlwind of strategies and contingencies. He knew the risks, but he also knew what was at stake. Neo-Luma's future depended on their success. The truth had to be revealed, no matter the cost. Determined and resolute, Alex prepared for the next phase of his mission. The city below was a maze of intrigue and danger, but he was ready to navigate it. With every passing moment, the countdown to the operation's commencement loomed larger in his mind. The battle for Neo-Luma's soul had begun, and Alex was at the heart of it. The morning was barely breaking when Alex received an urgent message from Dr. Johnson. They needed to meet immediately. He dressed quickly, his mind racing with possibilities. As he exited the penthouse, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the impending confrontation. The city was beginning to wake up, its streets buzzing with early commuters and the hum of automated vehicles. Alex navigated through the neon-lit alleys, his thoughts focused on the plan. The meeting place was a secluded cafe known for its discretion, frequented by those who valued privacy in a city of surveillance. As Alex entered the cafe, he spotted Dr. Johnson at a corner table, her face partially hidden behind a holographic menu. He slid into the seat opposite her, and she quickly dispensed with pleasantries. "We've been compromised," she whispered urgently. "There's a mole within my team. We need to move now, before they can act against us." Alex's heart pounded as he processed her words. Do you have any idea who it is? Dr. Johnson shook her head. No, but we need to secure the remaining evidence and get it to a safe location. We don't have much time. They mapped out a plan, coordinating their movements to gather the last pieces of critical information from multiple locations across Neo-Luma. The stakes were higher than ever, and every second counted. Their first stop was a secure data vault located beneath a bustling marketplace. Alex and Dr. Johnson moved quickly through the throngs of people, their eyes scanning for any sign of danger. As they descended into the vault, the temperature dropped, the cool air a stark contrast to the chaos above. Inside, rows of data storage units hummed softly. Dr. Johnson accessed the terminal, her fingers flying over the keyboard. This will take a few minutes, she said, her voice tense. Keep an eye out. Alex positioned himself at the entrance, his senses heightened. He could hear the distant sounds of the market, a muffled symphony of commerce and conversation. Suddenly, a movement caught his eye. A shadow slipped between the storage units, too quick to be a casual passerby. We've got company, he whispered urgently to Dr. Johnson. She didn't look up. Stall them. I just need a little more time. Alex moved silently through the rows, his eyes darting between the shadows. He saw the glint of a weapon and realized they were dealing with professionals. He ducked behind a storage unit, his mind racing. He needed to draw them away from Dr. Johnson. He grabbed a small metal object from the floor and threw it across the room. The clatter echoed, and the shadow moved towards the sound. Alex seized the opportunity, launching himself at the intruder. They grappled, the sound of their struggle muffled by the storage units. The attacker was strong, but Alex fought with a ferocity fueled by desperation. He twisted the weapon from the intruder's grasp and delivered a decisive blow, rendering them unconscious. He tied the attacker's hands with a cable, ensuring they wouldn't pose any further threat. Got it, Dr. Johnson called, her voice filled with relief. Let's move. They exited the vault, the marketplace above still oblivious to the drama unfolding below. Their next destination was a high-security facility on the outskirts of the city. They commandeered a sleek, automated vehicle, speeding through Neo-Luma's neon-lit streets. As they approached the facility, an alarm blared, signaling their unauthorized entry. We need to be quick, Dr. Johnson urged. The evidence is on the top floor. They sprinted through the facility, dodging security drones and automated defenses. The air was thick with tension as they ascended the final staircase. Bursting into the top floor, they found themselves facing a row of servers, each containing crucial data about the government's manipulations. Dr. Johnson began the data transfer, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. We're almost there, she said, her voice a mixture of determination and fear. Alex stood guard, his eyes scanning the room for threats. He heard the sound of footsteps echoing in the corridor outside. We've got more company, he warned. A team of armed operatives burst into the room, weapons raised. Alex dove for cover, returning fire with the weapon he had taken from the earlier attacker. The room erupted in a chaotic firefight, bullets and energy pulses zipping through the air. Alex moved with precision, his focus razor-sharp. He neutralized one operative, then another, but they kept coming. Dr. Johnson, we need to hurry, he shouted over the din. Just a few more seconds, she yelled back, her fingers flying over the controls. One of the operatives lobbed a grenade towards them. Alex's eyes widened as he saw it arcing through the air. Without thinking, he grabbed a metal tray and hurled it at the grenade, deflecting it back towards the attackers. The explosion rocked the room, and the operatives were thrown back in a shower of debris. Got it, Dr. Johnson screamed. Let's go. They bolted from the room, the building's alarms screaming around them. They sprinted down the corridors, dodging more security drones and operatives. As they burst through the main entrance, Alex saw a group of vehicles closing in, sirens blaring. Get in, he yelled, pushing Dr. Johnson into their waiting vehicle. They sped off, the city's lights blurring as they raced through the streets. Back at a safe house, they finally had a moment to breathe. Alex reviewed the data, his mind racing with the implications of what they had found. This is it, he said, looking at Dr. Johnson. We have everything we need to expose them. She nodded, her face a mixture of relief and resolve. Now we just need to get it to the right people. This is far from over. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, Alex felt a renewed sense of determination. The battle for Neo-Luma was just beginning, and he was ready to see it through to the end. The truth had to be revealed, no matter the cost. Alex and Dr. Johnson worked tirelessly through the night, poring over the data they had secured. Each file was more damning than the last, revealing the full extent of the government's control over the citizens of Neo-Luma. Surveillance, psychological manipulation, and a network of loyalists entrenched in every aspect of society. The evidence was overwhelming, but they needed a plan to disseminate it without falling into the hands of the government's enforcers. We need to contact our allies, Dr. Johnson said, her eyes weary but determined. They'll help us distribute this information securely. Alex nodded. We should move in small groups to avoid detection. I'll contact the underground press and a few trusted whistleblowers. We can use encrypted channels to communicate. They set to work, sending out encrypted messages to their contacts. The responses were swift and supportive, a testament to the growing unease within Neo-Luma. Many were ready to risk everything to bring the truth to light. Their first meeting was set for the following evening, in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The location was ideal, remote enough to avoid prying eyes but accessible for those in the know. As they prepared to leave, Alex's communicator buzzed with a warning. The government was mobilizing forces, likely aware of their movements. We need to split up, Alex said urgently. We'll draw less attention that way. I'll take the data to the warehouse. You reach out to our contacts and make sure they know the plan. Dr. Johnson agreed and they parted ways. Alex navigated the winding alleys and back streets of Neo-Luma, the data securely stored in a hidden compartment within his jacket. He moved swiftly but cautiously, avoiding the main thoroughfares where surveillance was most intense. As he approached the warehouse, Alex noticed a subtle but unmistakable sign that something was wrong. The normally quiet area was unusually still, and he spotted a figure lurking in the shadows. He slipped into an adjacent building, using the darkness to conceal his presence. From his vantage point, he observed the warehouse entrance, where several figures were stationed, their movements calculated and predatory. Ambush, Alex thought, his heart pounding. He needed to find a way to outmaneuver them. He scanned the area, looking for an alternate route. A series of interconnected rooftops caught his eye, offering a path that would lead him directly above the warehouse. Alex climbed the fire escape of the building he was in, moving with the stealth and precision of a seasoned infiltrator. The rooftops provided a perfect vantage point, allowing him to see the ambushers without being seen. He crept along, careful to avoid making any noise that might give away his position. Reaching the rooftop of the warehouse, Alex peered through a skylight. Inside, a small group of allies was already gathered, oblivious to the danger outside. He had to warn them. He tapped into the communicator, sending a silent alert to Dr. Johnson and the others inside. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on his shoulder, pulling him back. Alex spun around, coming face to face with an armed operative. They struggled, the operative trying to force him off the edge of the roof. Alex fought back, using his training to counter the operative's moves. He delivered a sharp elbow to the ribs, followed by a swift kick that sent the operative sprawling. He didn't have time to celebrate. More operatives were scaling the building, drawn by the commotion. Alex smashed the skylight and dropped into the warehouse, landing in a roll that brought him up onto his feet. "We're compromised," he shouted to the group below. "Get ready to fight." The room erupted into action as his allies drew their weapons. The doors burst open, and the operatives poured in, their intentions clear. Alex and his allies fought fiercely, the confined space amplifying the intensity of the battle. He moved with calculated precision, disarming one attacker and using the weapon to fend off another. Blasts of energy and gunfire filled the air, the sounds of the clash echoing through the warehouse. Alex ducked behind a stack of crates, returning fire as operatives advanced. He spotted Dr. Johnson, who had just arrived, engaging an attacker with a level of skill that belied her academic demeanor. "Get to the terminal," Alex yelled over the chaos. "We need to broadcast the data." Dr. Johnson nodded, making her way to the central terminal while Alex provided cover. He knew the operatives would focus on her, trying to prevent the transmission. He had to keep them at bay. With a final, desperate push, Alex and his allies managed to secure the perimeter, creating a brief window of opportunity. Dr. Johnson activated the terminal, initiating the data upload. The holographic display showed the progress, ticking steadily towards completion. "Almost there," she called out, her fingers flying over the controls. Alex held his ground, determined to see this through. The remaining operatives made a last-ditch effort to stop them, but Alex's team was ready. They fought with renewed vigor, driven by the knowledge that the truth was about to be revealed. The upload completed, and the data was transmitted to secure networks and trusted allies across Neo-Luma. The operatives, realizing their failure, began to retreat. Alex watched them go, his body aching from the fight but his spirit unbroken. "We did it," Dr. Johnson said, her voice filled with exhaustion and triumph. Alex nodded, looking at the now secure terminal. "This is just the beginning. They know we're onto them, and they won't stop until they've silenced us. We need to stay vigilant." As the group regrouped and tended to their wounds, Alex felt a surge of determination. The battle for Neo-Luma was far from over, but they had struck a decisive blow. The truth was out there now, and there was no turning back. The fight for justice had truly begun. The success of their operation reverberated through Neo-Luma like an electric shock. The government, caught off guard, scrambled to contain the fallout. Alex and Dr. Johnson knew they had only a small window of time before the full force of the regime came bearing down on them. "Everyone, listen up," Alex called to the gathered group in the safe house. "We've hit them hard, but they're going to come at us with everything they've got. We need to stay mobile and keep the pressure on." Dr. Johnson nodded in agreement. "Our next move is to ensure the public sees this information. We need to coordinate with our media contacts and secure locations for broadcast. We'll split into teams to cover more ground." Alex's team was tasked with reaching an underground news station known for its independence and reach. They moved swiftly through the city, sticking to the shadows and avoiding major thoroughfares. The tension was palpable, every sound and shadow potentially signaling danger. As they approached the station, they encountered a heavily fortified checkpoint. Guards equipped with advanced surveillance gear were inspecting everyone passing through. Alex pulled his team into a nearby alley to strategize. "We need a diversion," he said, scanning the area for opportunities. His eyes settled on a delivery drone depot across the street. "We can use those drones to create chaos." Two of his teammates, skilled in hacking and engineering, got to work. Within minutes, they had reprogrammed several drones to malfunction and crash near the checkpoint. The ensuing chaos provided the cover they needed. "Move, move," Alex urged as the guards rushed to control the situation. They slipped through the checkpoint unnoticed and entered the news station through a back entrance. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but determined. Journalists and technicians were already working on disseminating the data. "Alex, over here," one of the lead journalists called. "We've got everything set up. Just need to make sure the signal can't be traced back to us." Alex nodded and joined the tech team, overseeing the final preparations. They had just begun the broadcast when an alarm blared through the building. Security feeds showed government forces converging on their location. "They're here," Alex said grimly. "We need to hold them off long enough to get this broadcast out." The team sprang into action, barricading entrances and setting up defensive positions. Alex took a position by a window, his weapon at the ready. The first wave of attackers hit hard, using advanced tactics and equipment. Blasts of energy and gunfire filled the air as the operatives stormed the building. Alex aimed carefully, picking off attackers while his team covered other points of entry. He felt a surge of adrenaline as he moved from cover to cover, returning fire and issuing commands. The government forces were relentless, pressing the attack with coordinated precision. Alex spotted a group trying to flank them through a side entrance. "On me!" he shouted to a nearby teammate. They rushed to intercept the flankers, engaging in a fierce close-quarters battle. Alex fought with a mix of determination and desperation, knowing that every second they held out was crucial. He disarmed one attacker, using the momentum to knock another off balance. His teammate provided cover fire, allowing them to push the flankers back. Meanwhile, Dr. Johnson and the tech team worked feverishly to maintain the broadcast. The data was streaming live, reaching thousands of viewers across Neo-Luma. But the government was jamming their signals, trying to cut off the feed. "Almost there," Dr. Johnson muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. "Just a few more minutes." Alex heard the urgency in her voice and redoubled his efforts. He launched a grenade towards a cluster of attackers, the explosion scattering them. But more were pouring in, their numbers seemingly endless. "We need backup," one of his teammates shouted over the din. "We're all the backup we've got," Alex replied, gritting his teeth. A sudden surge of reinforcements burst through the main entrance, government forces armed with heavy weapons. Alex's team was being overwhelmed. He grabbed a communication device and called for an emergency extraction. "Hold the line," he ordered, rallying his team for a final stand. The extraction team arrived just as the situation became critical. A gunship hovered above the building, laying down suppressive fire. Ropes dropped, and Alex's team began their evacuation. Alex was the last to leave, ensuring everyone made it out. As he grabbed the rope and ascended to the gunship, he saw the building below engulfed in chaos. The broadcast had gone out, the truth now in the hands of the people. They had bought the time they needed, but at great cost. Inside the gunship, Alex and Dr. Johnson regrouped, assessing their losses and planning their next moves. The battle for Neo-Luma was far from over, but they had struck a critical blow. The government secrets were out, and the fight for justice continued. "We did it," Dr. Johnson said, her voice a mix of exhaustion and pride. "We got the truth out." Alex nodded, his face set in determination. "This is just the beginning. We'll keep fighting until we've won." The gunship soared above the city, a symbol of the resistance's resolve. Neo-Luma's future hung in the balance, but Alex and his allies were ready to face whatever came next. The countdown to exposure had begun, and there was no turning back. The days following the broadcast were a blur of strategic maneuvers and tense standoffs. Neo-Luma was a city on edge, the populace caught between the oppressive government and the newly emboldened resistance. Alex and his team knew that a decisive confrontation was imminent. "Everyone's ready," Dr. Johnson said, her voice steady despite the weight of their mission. "We've pinpointed the government's main communication hub. Disabling it will cripple their ability to coordinate." Alex nodded, looking over the maps and plans spread out before them. "We hit them hard and fast. Take out the hub, and it'll give us the upper hand." Their target was a fortified complex in the heart of the city, a sprawling structure bristling with defenses. The resistance had managed to gather enough firepower and manpower for the assault, but it was a risky operation. Success depended on precision and timing. As dusk fell, the resistance forces moved into position, blending into the shadows. Alex's heart pounded with a mix of adrenaline and anticipation. He led the first team, their objective to breach the outer defenses and create an entry point. "Go!" Alex whispered into his communicator. The team advanced, using the cover of darkness and the city's maze-like streets to approach the complex. They reached the outer wall, and Alex signaled for the breaching charges. Explosions shattered the night silence, and the team poured through the breach, weapons ready. Inside, the complex was a labyrinth of corridors and fortified rooms. The resistance moved with swift precision, engaging guards and disabling security systems. Alex's team faced fierce resistance, but they fought with determination, pushing deeper into the heart of the complex. "Alex, we've got hostiles inbound," a voice crackled over the comms. "They're regrouping. Hold your positions." Alex replied, his voice commanding. "We're almost there." They reached the central control room, a high-tech hub bristling with screens and communication arrays. Alex's team set up a defensive perimeter while their tech experts began hacking into the systems. The room buzzed with tension as they worked, every second counting. Suddenly, the room's main door exploded inward, and a squad of heavily armed operatives stormed in. Alex's team opened fire, the room erupting into chaos. Alex moved with practiced precision, taking down attackers with a mix of gunfire and hand-to-hand combat. He spotted a grenade rolling towards their position and kicked it back towards the attackers. The explosion rocked the room, and debris rained down. Alex pushed forward, his focus razor-sharp. He engaged an operative in close combat, their movements a blur of strikes and counters. He finally subdued the operative with a well-placed blow, but more were coming. "Get that hack finished," Alex shouted over the commotion. "We need those systems down now." "We're almost there," came the reply. The operatives regrouped for a final assault. Alex knew they had to hold the line. He rallied his team and they dug in, using every bit of cover and firepower they had. The battle was fierce, every inch contested, but the resistance fought with a desperate determination. The room's lights flickered as the hack took effect. Screens went dark, and communication arrays fell silent. The government's coordination was disrupted, their forces thrown into disarray. "We did it." Dr. Johnson's voice came through the comms, filled with relief. "The hub is down," but their victory was short-lived. A new wave of operatives, more heavily armed and determined, surged into the room. The resistance was outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with everything they had. Alex moved with deadly efficiency, his every action driven by the need to protect his team and ensure their mission succeeded. The battle raged on, the room a whirlwind of violence and chaos. Alex's team held their ground, but the cost was high. As the last of the operatives fell, Alex surveyed the room, seeing both victory and loss etched in the faces of his comrades. "Is everyone all right?" he called out, his voice hoarse. "We're here," came the weary replies. "But we've lost some good people." Alex's heart ached for those they had lost, but he knew they had to keep moving. "We need to get out of here, regroup and plan our next move." They made their way out of the complex, the city's lights flickering ominously in the distance. The government was reeling, but far from defeated. The resistance had dealt a critical blow, but the fight was far from over. Back at their safe house, Alex and Dr. Johnson reviewed their situation. The government's control had been weakened, but they were still a formidable opponent. The people of Neo-Luma were beginning to rise, inspired by the resistance's actions, but they needed a decisive victory to turn the tide. "We've shown them that we can fight back," Alex said, his voice filled with resolve. "Now we need to take it to the next level. We need to strike at the heart of their power." Dr. Johnson nodded. "We've come this far. We can't stop now. The future of Neo-Luma depends on us." As they planned their next steps, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battle had been hard-fought, and the losses were great, but they had struck a blow for freedom. The climactic confrontation was only the beginning. The fight for justice and the soul of Neo-Luma continued, and Alex was ready to lead the charge. The dawn of a new day was coming, and with it, the hope of a better future. The aftermath of the climactic battle left Neo-Luma in a state of upheaval. The once stifling grip of the government had loosened, and whispers of rebellion turned into resounding cries for freedom. The city, though scarred by the conflict, pulsed with renewed hope. Alex stood atop a makeshift stage in the heart of Neo-Luma's central plaza, addressing a crowd that had gathered to hear the resistance's next steps. The plaza was a symbol of the city's resilience, its neon lights flickering in solidarity with the people's determination. "We have struck a significant blow," Alex began, his voice echoing through the streets. "But our fight is far from over. We must continue to push forward, dismantling the oppressive structures that have controlled us for too long." The crowd responded with cheers and applause, their energy feeding into Alex's resolve. He saw familiar faces, those who had fought alongside him, and new ones, inspired by the resistance's actions. Among them was Dr. Johnson, standing near the front, her eyes filled with pride and determination. "Tonight, we celebrate our victories," Alex continued. "But tomorrow we return to the task at hand. We will rebuild Neo-Luma, not just as a city, but as a beacon of freedom and justice." As the crowd dispersed, Alex descended from the stage, finding Dr. Johnson waiting for him. "That was inspiring," she said, her voice warm with approval. "The people needed to hear that." Alex nodded, his mind already racing with plans for their next move. "We need to ensure that the momentum we've gained doesn't falter. We have to stay ahead of the government's attempts to regroup." Dr. Johnson agreed. "I've been in contact with our allies across the city. They're ready to help with the next phase. We need to establish a new, secure communication network to coordinate our efforts." The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. The resistance worked tirelessly, setting up safe zones and recruiting new members. They distributed supplies to those in need, ensuring that the people of Neo-Luma felt the tangible benefits of their struggle. Alex found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The sacrifices, the battles, the relentless pursuit of justice. It had all led to this moment. He remembered the faces of those they had lost, their memory driving him to push harder. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Alex and Dr. Johnson met in a quiet corner of their main safe house. The room was filled with maps, plans, and communication devices, a testament to their ongoing efforts. "We've come a long way," Dr. Johnson said, her voice tinged with both pride and exhaustion. "But we still have a long road ahead." Alex leaned back, his thoughts drifting. "I've been thinking about the future, about what happens after we win. We need to build a society that honors the sacrifices made, a society where such oppression can never take root again." Dr. Johnson smiled. "And we will. We've already begun laying the groundwork. The people are with us, and together, we can create a new Neo-Luma." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert on their communication device. A coded message flashed across the screen, urgent intelligence from one of their field teams. Alex read the message, his expression growing serious. "The government is planning a counterattack," he said, his voice steady. "They're desperate, and they'll try to reclaim control by any means necessary." Dr. Johnson's eyes hardened with determination. "Then we need to be ready. We'll mobilize our forces and ensure they don't succeed." The resistance sprang into action once more, their preparations precise and swift. Alex coordinated with his team, ensuring every sector of the city was covered. They fortified their positions, ready to defend their hard-won freedom. As night fell, Alex stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. The air was thick with anticipation, the calm before the storm. He knew that this would be a pivotal moment in their fight, a test of their resolve and unity. The first signs of the government's assault came with the distant rumble of armored vehicles and the buzz of drones. Alex's team was ready, their positions secure. The resistance forces waited in silence, their eyes fixed on the horizon. When the attack finally came, it was fierce and unrelenting. The government forces poured into the city, their intent clear. But the resistance was prepared. They met the assault head-on, their strategy honed by months of conflict. Alex moved through the battlefield with practiced precision, his commands clear and decisive. The resistance fought with a ferocity born of desperation and hope, their determination unwavering. The battle raged through the night, each side pushing the other to their limits. But the resistance held strong, their unity a formidable force. As dawn broke over Neo-Luma, the government forces began to falter, their resolve crumbling under the weight of the resistance's determination. By morning, the city was theirs. The government's counterattack had been repelled, their forces in retreat. The people of Neo-Luma emerged from their homes, cheering and celebrating the victory. Alex stood with his team, their faces etched with exhaustion and triumph. "We did it," he said quietly, the weight of their success sinking in. Dr. Johnson placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is just the beginning. We've shown that we can fight back, and now we need to build a future worthy of the sacrifices we've made." The resistance had won a decisive victory, but their journey was far from over. They had proven that the people of Neo-Luma could rise against oppression, and now they faced the challenge of rebuilding their city, their society, and their lives. As Alex looked out over the city, he felt a surge of hope. The dawn of a new day had come, and with it, the promise of a better future. The fight for Neo-Luma's soul was not just a battle, it was the start of a new era, and Alex was ready to lead them into that bright, hopeful future. With the government's forces in retreat, Neo-Luma began its transformation. The city, once gripped by fear and oppression, now buzzed with the energy of newfound freedom. The scars of battle were still visible, but they served as reminders of the struggle that had led to this moment. Alex walked through the central plaza, where citizens gathered to discuss plans for the future. Makeshift stands had been set up, offering food, medical supplies, and information about the new direction Neo-Luma was taking. The air was filled with a sense of unity and purpose. Dr. Johnson joined him, her face reflecting the collective determination of the people. "The rebuilding has started," she said, her voice filled with hope. "The people are eager to contribute, to create a city where everyone has a voice." Alex nodded, his gaze sweeping over the bustling plaza. "We need to harness this momentum. The first step is to establish a provisional council, one that represents all sectors of our society. We need to ensure that the power is distributed fairly and transparently." Dr. Johnson agreed. "I've already reached out to leaders from various communities. They're ready to join forces and help shape the future of Neo-Luma." In the days that followed, the Provisional Council was formed. Representatives from every corner of the city came together, bringing their unique perspectives and ideas. The meetings were intense and passionate, but there was a shared commitment to building a better society. Alex and Dr. Johnson played key roles in guiding these discussions, drawing on their experiences from the resistance. They emphasized the importance of accountability, transparency, and justice. Slowly but surely, the framework for a new government began to take shape. One evening, as the council meeting adjourned, Alex found himself on the rooftop where he had stood many times before. The city stretched out below, its lights twinkling like stars. Dr. Johnson joined him, and they stood in companionable silence for a moment. "We've come so far," Alex said finally, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and pride. "But there's still so much to do." Dr. Johnson smiled. "We'll get there. We've faced greater challenges and overcome them. Now it's about building, nurturing, and ensuring that the values we fought for are embedded in the fabric of our society." As they looked out over the city, the sound of celebration reached them. Music, laughter, and voices filled the air, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence that had once dominated Neo-Luma. The people were reclaiming their city, their lives, and their futures. In the following weeks, the Provisional Council made significant strides. They implemented policies to restore trust and rebuild the city's infrastructure. Resources were allocated to the most affected areas, ensuring that no one was left behind. The council also set up tribunals to hold those responsible for the oppression accountable, ensuring justice was served. Alex dedicated himself to the cause, working tirelessly alongside the council members. He saw the spirit of the resistance in their efforts, a relentless drive to create something lasting and meaningful. The city was healing, and with each step forward, Alex felt a deep sense of fulfillment. One day, as he walked through a newly established community center, he saw children playing, their laughter echoing through the halls. Families were reunited, neighbors helped each other rebuild, and there was a palpable sense of optimism. This was the future they had fought for, a future where everyone had the opportunity to thrive. Dr. Johnson approached him, her expression warm. "It's happening, Alex. We're building the city we dreamed of." Alex smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace. "And it's just the beginning. There's so much more we can do." As Neo-Luma continued its journey of renewal, Alex knew that the challenges were far from over. But with the strength of the people and the lessons of their struggle, they were ready to face whatever came next. The city had been transformed, not just physically, but in spirit. It was a beacon of hope, resilience, and the power of unity. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and with it, the promise of a brighter, more just future. Alex and his allies stood ready to lead Neo-Luma into this new chapter, their resolve unshakable and their vision clear. Together, they had proven that even in the darkest times, hope could prevail and a better world could be built from the ashes of the past. Did you find the golden star in the video? If you did, leave a comment with the time you saw it to be mentioned in our next video. Thanks for spending a moment of your day with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps a lot. If you don't, well, I'll still love you. Thanks for stopping by.